Good evening all, and welcome. I just have a quick announcement. Some of you may be aware that another person called Creepypasta is re-uploading every video I make, and lots of old ones too. It's quite frustrating, and a lot of you have pointed it out. I do need your help though. He's probably even copied this video. What I'd like you to do is if you could type him in the search bar and report him, please. It would mean a lot because he's just stealing everything I do left, right and center, and it's really frustrating. So if you don't mind, maybe at the end, find his channel, report the videos, report the channel for impersonation, and hopefully YouTube will do something. I've reported him, but he's still going, so maybe it takes more of us to do it. Thank you, everyone. So yeah, I'm sorry for the announcement, but I need help. I can't do it on my own. But anyway, without further ado, it's time to get comfortable and let the darkness take control. Last night, I was watching that 70s show reruns, eyes heavy and mind in a daze. I was starting to fall asleep when I awoke to what I thought was a loud thump by the patio door. The chocolate chip cookie I was halfway through slid off my hand, somersaulting down my torso, as this noise brought me to an awakening twitch. Just an animal, I thought, or the house settling. Eric Foreman is so goofy. Donna is always out of his league. Eric is lucky. I like this show. Back to sleep. Thump. This time from the ceiling. I shrieked. What the hell is that? This time I sit up, with upright posture like I'm ready to focus on any miniature detail that strikes my senses. I turn the kitchen light on, just out of a general state of fear, without really any concern about anything being in the kitchen. I check the back deck for the thump from before. That's super weird, I think. Nothing else happens. I start to relax. I'm not really worried at this point, but still a little on edge. I'm a college student spending the summer at home with my parents, working in downtown DC. They're at the beach. I'm alone in this rather large house. It's 10:36 p.m. The door knocks. Seriously? I think. Now again, if I were on the set of a horror movie, or had been watching something scary for that matter, I would have drawn an immediate connection between the thumping noise and the door knocking unusually late at night. But neither of these things applied to me at that moment. So I didn't. I was still kind of anxious though from those thumps. But when the door knocked, my attention immediately forgot about this noise and was likely nothing to worry about. Probably a salesperson or a mailman. I remember one time a few years back, a UPS man rang our doorbell at about midnight to drop something off. I was the only one awake, so this scared the crap out of me. Maybe it was something like that. The most likely scenario would be my buddy Frank, who considered coming over but said he was too tired. He can be a little spacey though sometimes, so I guess he could have changed his mind without telling me. I guess I'll go over there and at least tell whoever the hell it is that I'd like my privacy. Unless it's Frank, of course, who I will then remind how spacey he can be. A little weirded out by the situation though, I grab the first thing that resembles a weapon. An old lacrosse stick. I hold it from the head with the shaft facing outwards like a lightsaber. As I turn the corner to the foyer, I see through the door a pair of skinny legs with odd worn slippers. Alright, this is a little weird. That's definitely a skinny chick. Maybe she's confused trying to visit a friend and knocked on the wrong house. The house next door is about the same size. Doesn't really look a lot like mine, but I don't know what else it could possibly be. All of this enters my mind in the matter of seconds between my footsteps in the kitchen and the doormat between the front door and the rest of my home. As I stand between the large modern door and whoever the hell is out there, I lean my lacrosse stick on the ground behind me, so this stranger won't see it. As my hand floats hesitantly towards the doorknob, I hear a voice coming from the other side of the door. No clear words, just light whispers. I assume someone must be with the slippers girl, because I haven't even opened the door yet, and as far as I can tell, this person hasn't even seen that someone is home, unless she's talking to herself. That thought didn't calm my mind at all, though. My hands stopped frozen in midair, about halfway between the rest of my body and the door, like I was about to do some weird robot dance move. I wait for several seconds, disturbed by the odd synchronization between my movement towards the doorknob and the voice outside. I wait longer. No voices. I take a deep breath. It's through my nose and out through my mouth. Knock, knock. I open the door about 3/4 way, quickly, like a toddler anxious and curious to discover the monster in their closet. I stick the right half of my body out, facing 2 dark feminine figures on my porch. The first thing I notice is those beat-up slippers. I look up from there, my head and neck tilting upwards to see the rest of her. Straight black hair, uncombed, matted in different directions. She looked sickly, shaking in the cold, with a hooded sweatshirt and tiny khaki shorts. She's about 5'3", looks to be about 13, staring straight forward, which for me, at 5'9", standing on a raised surface above my lowered porch, is at my pelvis. In the dark, I cannot make out the features of her face, but could tell that something about her was awkward, the way she stood there off balance. Her neck tilted to the left side like a chewed-up, overused doll. Before I can react in any way, I observe her partner, about a half a foot behind her, and to the left, a noticeably younger girl, maybe 9 years old, but with about an inch over her sister, wearing a ragged, dark blue shirt, black pants, rain boots. She had similar black hair, though didn't have the same bizarre demeanor as her older sister. I look down at these 2 girls, and have no idea how long it had been since I had opened the door. Have they said anything? What do I say? This is too weird. Can I help you? I muster out, in the tone I typically use to talk to kids, but with an undertone of chill to my voice. I stutter some when I'm nervous or excited, and here I could barely make out a word. Hello, sir. Please, we are cold and would like to use the phone. The younger one says that, her head facing straight forwards. Her tone, it was like nothing I'd ever heard before. It was feminine, sure, but each word left her mouth fully independent of the other one, like they were just words being spit out of a machine and placed in the correct order by a third party. Almost like a robot. But she was clearly human, a young girl I'm speaking to, yet somehow very, very off. She didn't sound her age. She sounded at least 14 or 15, but she looked no older than 10. Why did she speak to me and not the older sister? What's going on? Is her older sister shy? Mentally handicapped? Am I dreaming? And what does this mean about using my phone? It was like she was speaking off a script and mixed up her question. Did she mean to ask something else? Not sure how to respond to this arbitrary question, I manage. Well, I'm not sure what you're asking. Are you 2 lost? First, nothing. Just stares, straight forward, directly ahead, as if with no visual awareness. Then, the younger one. Please, sir. We are alone and need to call home. Let us in." Her response, with the same monotone voice, didn't really answer my question. It was like she was speaking without any concern over it. Just when it was time for her next line, and the last part, "Let us in," like a command, completely separate from her prior polite, candid request. Trembling in fear, confused, with a strong sensation telling me something was horribly wrong, I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but I cannot let you in my house. You'll have to stay here while I grab a phone and call for you." I couldn't leave these two kids stranded out here. But I knew. Something in the pit of my stomach just told me I could not let them in. I was scared out of my mind. The two just looked straight forward, not responding. And suddenly, the older one, who has yet to move or say anything, changes her expression completely. She squeezes her fists as they shake at her sides as if in great pain, and without moving her pale face or neck, makes a smile, showing her teeth all at once. They were sharp, inhuman, like an animal's. At this, I make an obvious, loud scream of terror. The younger one notices my fear and looks up at me, and her pale face, her eyes, blackness. Pure black. No clear iris or retina. Like two black marbles. I then noticed her silent, smiling older sister's black eyes as well. A grotesque nausea floods my stomach, closing in on me, choking me. I am frozen. I do not manage a scream. I can't. I am lost in fear. My entire body speeds up, tingling, numbing. I lose myself. And finally, after what feels like several minutes, I let out a noise of horror that I don't think I've ever made. As I close the door in front of me and retreat to the safety of my home. My body is still shaking. I stand, crying, trembling in the front of the door. I need to reach my cell phone, which is in the family room. I can still hear that 70s show in the background, which brings some relief, but it sounds off now, foreign, almost like another language in my fearful state. I need to call the cops. I can't let them in. "Get out of here!" I yell while banging on the door in an attempt to scare them off. Undiscernible sounds come from the other side, like animal cries or barks. It doesn't sound like the younger girl. I know it isn't. It's the older girl, the silent, mentally off one. But I can't fathom this. No. I need to reach my cell phone, but I can't move. I can't lose track of them. I can see the slippers in the side window. I know she's still there. More animal noises from outside. I scream, yell, bang my lacrosse stick against the door. Anything I can get out of my tired lungs and muscles. I felt like I was being attacked by a grizzly bear. I was in full-on survival mode, doing all I could to scare them away. But any noise I made was matched by the older girl, with her disturbing barks and screams that to this day haunt my dreams. Then, from the other side of the door I hear a muffled, "We just want to call our mother," from the younger girl. "Please, we are scared and alone. Let us in. Let us in." That last part, "let us in," in the exact same cadence twice over, like a recording. "Please, let us in," like a chant. "Let us in. Let us in. Let us in." The younger girl continues, each command louder and more assertive than the last one, as the older girl's noises matches her demands. I wait for any sign of safety of this horrible nightmare coming to an end, I continue screaming at them until finally it stops. The noises, the chanting, gone. The slippers are gone. I look out my window, sprinting legs, the older girl running the speed of a male track star, but her legs twisting over each other like a circus freak. This is so screwed up. I see her trail off, catching up with the younger sister, who must have given the orders to leave while she strayed for a minute or two barking and screeching and yelping like a Neanderthal. I watch as the older sister finds her younger sister waiting on the other side of the road. They stand there, not looking back at my house, staring straight ahead the other way, like they are waiting for something, someone. And suddenly, a large, wiry figure walks towards them. Long legs and arms and lanky, inhuman features, with the shape of a woman, but far too tall and awkward in form, like one of those scarecrow-like animations from a Tim Burton film. This creature, this monster, leads them away into the night. I did not leave my front door the entire night. I didn't sleep, and barely have since. Close family, my girlfriend, and my friends want to believe me. They say they don't think I'm crazy, but I feel like they don't really believe me. This is actually so screwed up, whatever it is, whoever they are. It's real. They're like these subhumans trying to take us, or have them join them. I don't know what it is. They create this energy of fear and terror, like nothing I have ever experienced. I lay awake at night, terrified of when I open my eyes, that older sister will be outside my window, hanging from a tree smiling at me, barking, waiting for me to walk outside, leave the house. I haven't left since. Update. It's been a few days now and I've managed to leave the house at the request of my loved ones. Each hour that passes I do feel a little more safe. I know this sounds like something out of a horror movie, but it's so messed up, and the realest thing I've ever experienced. It was the summer of 1986, and I had just graduated from high school. I was living in Vancouver, British Columbia, and my girlfriend and I spent the afternoon at Kitsilano Beach, suntanning. She had to leave early for work, so I stayed on the beach, alone. It was around 4, and I was hungry. I walked up to the beach over an area called Spanish Banks. There is a concession out there, and I had a long line. It was an Expo 86, so we had a ton of tourists that summer, and the beach was packed. I placed my order, but was told that it would be a 15 to 20 minute wait for my food. I perched myself on a bench and proceeded to wait. For some reason I looked across the street. The concession stand is adjacent to the road, a narrow 2-lane road, not the best for beach traffic. And the other side of the road is a forest called the UBC Endowment Lands, attached to the university. There was a guy walking down through the forest, which was also a steep hill. There is no sidewalk below, and it was a really dangerous place to try and cross the street. Not only that, it was an odd place to come out of. Imagine a steep hill with lots of bushes and trees going straight down a curb, and then a busy street. The second that I saw this guy, and I was far away at the concession stand, I had that gut-wrenching fear that everyone describes. Even though he was far away, I could tell that he was grinning maliciously, fixated on me. He crossed the street grinning, and at that moment there were no cars, so he got across easily. He made a beeline straight to where I was, and went and sat on a bench across from me. I'm not good with distances, but I approximate it must have been 10 to 15 feet. He was First Nations, a bit older than I was, maybe 1920. He had medium-length hair and was wearing a white t-shirt and a red flannel shirt over it, unbuttoned. He was wearing jeans. I can't remember his shoes, runners of some kind. He was fairly attractive, but utterly evil. Malicious was the word that kept going through my mind. Now his eyes, they were black. No whites could be seen, but they were not shiny like all of the other accounts I've read. His were dull. The way that I described it to my boyfriend later was that they looked like scratched black plastic. They also gave me the feeling of when you look into a microscope or binoculars and you can see your own eyelashes squished against the lens. And it's almost spider-like. His eyes and his everything frightened me like nothing ever else had. He sat there grinning at me. He knew that I was terrified, and I knew that I had to pretend that I was not. I felt totally alone, even though there were tons of people around. No one else seemed to notice anything amiss. I felt as though knowing that this person existed made me hate being alive. The world would never be safe if things like him existed. I sat there acting totally normal on the outside, trying to keep it together, because it seemed instrumental to my survival. I had no idea what this thing would do, but I felt as if my life was in danger. My food was ready for pickup. I got it, and then proceeded to go over to the payphone, and I kept my back to him as I phoned my boyfriend. I told him to get over to Spanish Banks because there was a really scary guy here and I didn't know how to get away. After my boyfriend hung up, I stayed in the phone booth, pretending to talk to someone. At some point, I had to get off. Maybe someone wanted the phone, and I sat back on the bench, and he stayed, grinning. A minute or two before my boyfriend got there, he got up and sauntered away down the beach. When he arrived, he wanted to go after him. I grabbed his arm and told him that we had to get out of there now. I couldn't properly explain it to my boyfriend, just how terrifying that experience was. I still can never explain it properly. It was scarier than any murderer. It felt as if this thing could do something to you. It wouldn't just end your life. It would do something that would destroy or torment your soul forever. I've had a couple of other experiences that are slightly related to this, though different. Today was a day like any other day. I woke up at noon, got showered and dressed, cleaned out my room. My mom was out shopping, and my dad was up on some land we owned trying to clear out the brush. My younger sister was at school. Today, she had a choir concert, so I was searching for something nice to wear. Today felt unusually long. It's almost like I was anticipating something. I felt nervous, but peaceful. My mum came home, so we went for a walk with our dog, and talked as usual. She told me shopping was lonely without me. I had a bad day yesterday, so she wanted to let me sleep. I put my arm around my mum and hugged her with a smile. We talked about my fears of college, which I'll be starting in August. We talked about things we're looking forward to during the holidays. We talked about things that make us sad, things that cheer us up, songs we like, old musicians, and how much Steven Tyler looks like Mick Jagger, and had a laugh about that. I couldn't seem to shake my feelings of anxiety. A few hours had passed, and my sister had come home. We were in her bedroom so that I could help her figure out what to wear. I finally found a pretty white top and a pair of silky dress pants. She got dressed and left for her concert. I felt stressed, so I decided to stay back to get a shower before I left. I was standing in the shower, warm water hitting my back and the steam relaxing my entire body. I was stepping out when I was suddenly filmed with an overwhelming sense of dread and worry. I felt dizzy and disoriented. I tried to shake the feeling, so I blow-dried my hair and put on my dress. I heard knocking at the front door, but I felt sheer terror. I didn't want to go downstairs, and I didn't want to answer the door. My dog started growling and barking and scratching the door. "Hello? I need to use your phone." At this point, I was obligated. I ran down and opened the door. I left the storm door shut and locked it, so I was able to talk through the next scene. It was a girl of about 13 with long blonde hair, wearing a bright blue hoodie and torn jeans. Next to her was another little girl of about 6 or 7. She had short blonde hair and little above the shoulder length and was wearing a pink dress with flowers on it. Both were looking down, so I couldn't see their faces. Hi. Can I help you girls? We need to use your phone. We're not from around here, and we lost our mother. She's worried." The older girl mumbled, still looking down. I felt compelled to let them in, but I wasn't willing to risk anything with that horrible feeling I had. I'd heard so many stories about the black-eyed kids, and researched into it a lot. These stories had made me terribly curious, and intrigued me greatly. I know too much about them to deny what's happening. "You can use my cell phone, but you can't come in." "We've been outside all day, Mom. Please, we're cold." It was a warmer day. It was in the high 50s Fahrenheit, compared to what it had been. "I can't let you in. If you need to call your mom, I can let you use my cell. That's it." So I stepped out onto the porch, not knowing what to expect. I noticed the older girl get more tense, like she was starting to get angry. "Please, Mom. We are very tired and have to call our mum." Her tone had gotten more aggressive. It was unsettling. "Look at me." "What?" "No. We need to use your phone." I said, "Look at me. If I can't see you in the eyes, I won't let you in." They both looked up at me. They had large, dead black eyes. I felt as if my soul was being drawn into them. My heart sank. These were the things I'd read about. The soulless, violent children were standing in front of me. I felt so compelled to say yes. I almost felt guilty for being so aggressive in my response, but I knew what they were. I can't let my compassion overtake my common sense. "What are you?" I know those eyes. "What are you, children? What do you want?" She said nothing. She tilted her head and stared directly at me in the eyes. It felt almost hypnotic. It's a feeling I can't really explain. They looked at each other and smiled. "Ma'am, we're two girls who need to call their worried mother. Please, this is the last time I'll ask nicely." She kept that twisted smile on her face and just glared at me. I backed into the door, opened it, and slammed it in their face. I locked the door and walked through the house in a panic, making sure all the windows and doors were locked. I heard knocking on the window. I backed myself against a wall and peered over just enough where they couldn't see me, but I could see them. I crawled onto the floor to another room. They then came to that side of my house and began knocking on the windows of the room I was in. It's like they could see me, no matter how much I tried to hide. In a panic, I called the police. "This is Carlisle's daughter. I need someone. There are some girls knocking on my windows and they won't go." I told them I can't let them in. "Please come. I'm scared." My dad is good friends with a lot of the cops, so they know who I am by my father's name. My dog was still barking furiously. I'd honestly forgotten he was even there. His barking shook me back to reality. The cops soon arrived and told the girls to leave. They actually walked away. I wasn't sure what to make of that. I've never heard of them just walking away. Maybe they have their own fears, cops being one of them. The cops looked shocked when they first started talking to the girls, but eventually got them to leave. I realized I was really late to my sister's concert, and in a panic, grabbed my shoes and everything and drove over to the school. On a positive note, the concert was great. The chorale sounded beautiful, and I was terrified to go home after. With reason, of course. I truly cannot make heads or tails of my experience. Let me tell you though, if you ever run into these children, you'll regret answering the door. Whatever you do, don't look into their eyes. It's like they have some sort of hypnotizing power. You'll feel dizzy and sick. You'll never forget your run-in with these inhuman children. I've heard stories of black-eyed kids over recent years. Some of them are just downright creepy. I'm a sensitive. I do my best to be aware and focused. So when/if I'm in danger, or loved ones are in danger, my intuition goes on red alert. With that being said, I'd like to share something interesting. During the most recent New Year's Eve, my son, myself, and my fiancée had a quiet night at home. We watched movies, made dinner, and my son went to bed fairly early, since he was only 5. No wild party. We were marathoning watching Netflix while laughing and chatting in the master bedroom, well after midnight. At which point there was a confident, yet creepy, solid knock at our front door. We live in the country. It's a bit more remote, and all of our neighbours were friendly enough. But they wouldn't have knocked that late, as it would be perceived as rude. Our Jeep was parked in the garage, so it wouldn't be related to a car having the lights on or anything. I'm listening to this because that happened once. The keys to the Jeep in the house were securely hung in place. The fun time we were having quickly shifted to an odd feeling of confusion, coupled with unusual terror. It was really odd. We aren't fearful people. We simultaneously checked our smartphones for anyone stopping by unannounced. Nothing. Except a few well wishes from friends due to it being New Year's Eve and all. I got up to stretch, and my fiancé made sure I wasn't about to answer the door. "Hell no," I said. We laughed uncomfortably. I joked with him saying, "'Cause you're gonna do it." I teased him. He scowled and smiled, knowing full well he would have to normally. Why were we so on edge? We both remarked how odd we felt about the knocking and the late hour. In fact, we didn't budge from the master bedroom. Neither of us felt good about checking the door, and figured whomever it was had the wrong house. Then another knock. We were getting agitated, and that strange feeling of terror was back, strong as ever. I've never felt that way about someone knocking on the door before, nor have I not felt safe to answer. It was really odd. I'll paint a more clear picture. Good neighborhood. Our front porch light bulb needed to be replaced, so it was dark as hell out there. I thought it was really weird that someone would be standing out there in the complete pitch-black darkness for 3 minutes knocking like that. I mentioned this to my fiancé. The peephole would give us away if we stole a look, since lights were on throughout the house. We didn't dare check. Why? That senseless feeling of fear was disabling. It made it so two grown, very capable at defending themselves adults were essentially cowering in fear after 2 knocks at the front door late at night. What gives? It took about a half hour, but I eventually felt a lot better, no longer afraid, and felt that whoever it was had left. I checked the front of the house through the kitchen window. No cars, no neighbours, no parties. Just the calm sound of crickets. I proceeded to open the front door, after listening to make absolutely certain that no one would surprise me, like a drunk ex-boyfriend passed out on the porch or something equally hilarious. Satisfied, I opened the front door. It was quiet. In fact, it was too quiet. No sound at all. That's odd. I had a feeling instantly of being watched. From where? Who? What? I got the chills and shut the door, then armed the alarm system. I thought to myself that if they came back, we can call to report suspicious activity to the police. However, it then occurred to me that we wouldn't get through. It was New Year's Eve after all. Awesome, right? Even to me, it sounds like I'm overly paranoid and getting spooked for no reason. I would think the same had it not happened to me. When the second knock took place for a split second, I thought, oh crap, what if? Regarding the black-eyed kids stories I'd read. Mainly it was the remarkable senseless fear we felt that tipped me off. My son slept through it. No, I didn't share this epiphany with my fiancé at that moment. We were too terrified to make any noise. He's legitimately a skeptic. He doesn't know anything about the BEK, and I wasn't about to go into it at the time. He shared there was no way in hell he was answering the door, and I thought his reaction was odd, especially since he didn't know any of the stories. During this ordeal, the doorbell wasn't used at all. What's strange is that the only light in the porch area would have been the illuminated button of the front doorbell. Why wasn't the doorbell pushed? There's no porch light out there. It had burnt out. It was at a height which needed a ladder to be reached. During the busy holidays, we hadn't gotten around to replace the bulb yet. It was on our to-do list of things. It was moved to the top of the list after this experience. It was super late at night, and I've lived here for 8 years. As an example, the only time our door was ever knocked on super late at night was a friendly neighbour letting us know, and this was months ago, that I had left my truck door open when we had unloaded groceries. He announced himself as he was knocking, saying who he was and why, before we even reached the door. We were grateful for his concern, and that this was the only time it happened. It's a good neighbourhood after all. What's interesting is that with my previous knowledge of the black-eyed kids, that occurred to me during this experience, so I stayed put. There was no way I was going to check out who was there, just to be certain. It's more important to express that the immense fear I felt was paralyzing. I truly feel for anyone who has the displeasure of experiencing a black-eyed kid. If that isn't what was on the porch, then it was something equally as terrible. It's also important to share this tidbit. I'm not a person who's normally fearful of much. Honestly, there is danger in just about everything. However, that doesn't stop me from my daily adventures, and I'd rather enjoy life than live in fear. I'm a streetwise female who is always aware of her surroundings, as well as a survivor of a home invasion as well. Interestingly enough, when someone tried to rob me years prior, they were discovered in my kitchen when I was getting a quick glass of water before bed. We hadn't even been home for 2 minutes. I kept a Brita in the fridge to keep cold filtered water. When I opened the fridge, the light illuminated the kitchen well enough so that I could see the man standing on the kitchen corner. As unnerving as that was, I wasn't afraid. Fight kicked in versus flight. All I did was look straight at the man and say, "Get out." I walked towards him with purpose, and he fled. I wasn't harmed. He ran from the house. My then boyfriend, back then it was someone I dated a few years ago, was amazed at my bravery. I've been trained in self-defense, have taken martial arts for years. So there you have it. Sometimes people fall on hard times and take desperate measures to rob others, and that basically was someone looking to rob a house that they thought was empty. I surprised them, and they fled. With this experience that I've described, my instincts were going nuts. It was so terrifying that I wanted to share this with the community, as a helpful way to warn others. If you have someone or something knocking late at night, and it's followed by a similar feeling of overwhelming dread, simply trust yourself. Do not go near the door. Nor could I, no matter what. That dreadful feeling was so pronounced, our instincts are there to keep us safe. So trust that feeling. It's there to keep you safe. Don't second guess yourself. We have since installed a security camera and restored the porch light. So a few years ago, I had a run-in with the entities known as the Black-Eyed Children. For those of you who don't know, the Black-Eyed Children are beings that roam the night. They knock on doors and try and get into your house. When you get a good look at them, they look like they're from a different time period. Then you see their face. They have no eyes. Or rather, their eyes are so black, they look like they're not even there. Any encounter with them results in the most terrifying night of most people's lives. However, my encounter with them just falls short. For reference, I was 17 when this occurred. At the time of writing this, I am a 19, almost 20-year-old, and I was working at an indoor water park that might have been referred to as the Puddle. I was a lifeguard, and was the last one heading home late one night. I was soaking wet and freezing, despite it being around 80 degrees outside. I got into my car and locked it, pulling my phone out for some music. I read a couple of messages and got distracted, and suddenly there was a tap at my window. I looked up and saw a couple of kids staring at me. I rolled the window down just enough to hear them clearly. "What's up, guys? Are you lost?" I asked in a polite tone. They didn't really respond. They didn't really move at all. Finally, the smaller child spoke, and as he did, my heart dropped. The voice that came out of this child's mouth was deeper than my own. It was so deep that it sounded like Satan himself spoke to me. "We just need a ride home. Could you let us in and take us there?" I couldn't move. I was frozen in fear. "Come on, mister. Just open the door," it demanded, knocking again. As they were knocking, a car's headlights illuminated their faces. They had voids where their eyes should be. When they saw my look of horror, they grinned and started pounding so hard on my window that I thought it would break. I kept trying to start my car, but it wouldn't. Finally, one of the housekeepers of the hotel the Puddle was built around came out to throw trash, and I heard them walking and went to warn them about the kids. When I look up, they were gone. Now this could have been a hallucination brought on by the amount of stress I went through, but it was very real for me. Anyway, my car ended up starting, and I made it home in record time. Like I said, it's not the scariest thing that's happened to me, but it's up there. Let's just hope they don't find me again. Hey guys, it's Mort here, and thank you so much for listening. I do hope that you enjoyed tonight's installment. As I asked you at the start, please don't forget to report Creepy Ace. You can find his channel by doing a search in the search bar, as I don't want to link it in any way, shape or form in the description or comment section or anything. So please, it would really mean a lot to me if you guys could do that. and report his videos and his channel so that hopefully he gets taken down and no longer copies me. I've had to report channels like this in the past, but I think he's one of the more persistent ones. And again, if anyone sees anyone who's re-uploading my content, please report and send it to me, and we will try to take them down. Thank you for looking out for me. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop some love with a like and a comment with your thoughts. It really helps and goes a long way. And if you're new here, sorry about the rant, but feel free to subscribe and press the little bell icon to be notified every time I post. I do post every night, so don't miss a chance to be notified of your nightly spooks. If you want to share a story and maybe have it read in a future video, send it to my email or drop it in my Reddit. Please be sure to include plenty of punctuation, paragraphing, good grammar and description to maximize the chances of your stories being selected. But anyway, for now guys, I'm gonna sign off. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.